I come to the floor today after spending the last 7 weeks traveling the beautiful state of North Dakota, working with communities on issues that matter most to them, whether it's agriculture, opioid abuse, any number of issues involving urban and rural housing. But one common message occurs at every stop. Why can't Congress get its job done? Why aren't you doing what you're supposed to be doing? And so the people of North Dakota, and I think the people of this country, have a simple message. They want us to do our job. They're sick and tired of politics getting in the way of work getting done, and they don't understand why even the most basic issues, the most simple issues where there is vast majorities that support them, get hung up in partisan politics. That got me thinking about three numbers that really do sum up the inability of my friends in the majority to do their job. And those numbers are 90, 175, and 20. So let's start out with 90. 90 is the current number of judicial vacancies across our various federal courts in the United States. 32 of these vacancies have been deemed judicial emergencies. That means that justice is being severely delayed in these jurisdictions. Every day, Americans, American business, have to sit and wait for resolution and certainty. When we are capable of getting the job done, when we actually believe that we have qualified nominees ready to take the bench and hear these cases. The majority is brought to the floor and confirmed only 20 circuit and district court judges during this Congress. 20. How does that compare? Well, if you look at the last 2 years of the George W. Bush presidency, the Senate Judiciary Committee, then chaired by Senator Leahy, actually approved nearly 3 times as many. In fact, 68 judges were approved during that time period. 68 judges compared to 20. And last year, the majority matched the record for confirming the fewest number of judicial nominees in more than a half century. That's just 11 nominees for the entire year. These aren't records that any of us should be proud of, not when we hear from judges, lawyers, and our constituents about the backlog of cases in the federal courts and around this country. Right now, 31 nominees still have yet to either have a hearing or a vote in the Senate Judiciary Committee. Some of these nominees have put their life on hold, ready to serve their country in one of the highest positions a lawyer can hope to achieve, putting their life on hold, delaying their economic viability, waiting to find out. That leads me to the second number. Second number is 175. That's the number of days since the president nominated Merrick Garland to the United States Supreme Court. My friends in the majority will come down and claim they absolutely could not give him a hearing because of something called the Biden rule, something I've never voted on, I didn't know existed. I go looking in the rule book to try and find out where this Biden rule exists, and I've yet to track it down. But I do know that when we talk about statements on the floor attributed to then Senator Joe Biden and now Vice President Joe Biden, we ought to look not at what he said, but what he did when he chaired the all-important Senate Judiciary Committee. And so when you look at this from the lens of actions speaking louder than words, and if we look at what Joe Biden was able to accomplish when he chaired the committee, he gave a hearing to every single nominee that came before him, whether that nominee was nominated by a Democratic president or a Republican president. I think that brings me to my last number, which should be the easiest of all to address, and that number is 20. 20 is the number of circuit and district court judges who've had a hearing, who've been reported out of the Senate Judiciary Committee on a bipartisan basis. In fact, 18 of them were unanimous, but they're still awaiting an up or down vote to the Senate. I think it's unusual that I should even have to come to the floor to explain how ridiculous this is. These nominees are all non-controversial. They're non-controversial enough to have received a hearing and been voted out of the committee with Republican and Democrat support. That means that the majority of the committee that we charge with fully vetting these nominees found all of the nominees qualified to serve a lifetime appointment on the federal district court bench. Well, 12 were nominated over 300 days ago, and 6 others were nominated over 200 days ago, and still they wait. Several of these judges were nominated and have the support of both their home state Democrat and Republican senators. Several of these judges were nominated by and have the support of all of their senators. It's just unheard of that they should have to wait, given that we've gone through the process. One of these nominees I want to particularly point out is a woman by the name of Jennifer Poole. Jennifer Poole's from Devil's Lake. Her family is a huge and important part of the community there. Her dad runs a small business, a plumbing business, and she worked her way up through the ranks and currently serves as an assistant U.S. attorney in North Dakota. She's been appointed by a Democratic president, but she served initially and received her initial appointment as an assistant U.S. attorney from a Republican appointee. She is highly qualified and completely non-controversial. But yet she waits, and yet the Eighth Circuit waits for another person to sit on the bench and carry the load of that important circuit court. So I think it's time to do our job. I think it's time to move these 20 nominees and to get the court fully functioning. And I want to kind of make this point because when we look at the role that Congress plays in the judiciary, we have a very significant role given lifetime appointments that we would in fact provide advice and consent. But beyond that, the judiciary is an incredibly important part of our checks and balances. And when we don't have a functioning judiciary, we do not have a functioning democracy. And so I think it is really important that we look at this in the light of our responsibility to make sure that those 3 branches of government are fully functioning and doing their job and able to do their job because we have people in place.